Hello everyone, Silent here, and welcome back to another episode of Bug Rock of the Week. Today I'll be showing you a ton of new bugs in the most recent Bedrock Edition update. 1.18.30 has released, and it brings with it a few different bugs. Real quick, thank you to everyone in the community post and on Twitter for sending me these bugs. You guys sending me bugs is super duper helpful. If you ever find anything for 118 or 119 that's buggy or glitchy, let me know in the comments section down below. It might be included in a future video, but otherwise, thank you so much. Probably the biggest issue in this update is that Render Dragon has been rolled out to mobile devices, and it's less than optimal. So you may have noticed a lot of lag, or framiness, or crashes, freezes, just different visual issues in the game. This is kind of to be expected with a new rollout of Render Dragon. It does have a lot of issues, but we will probably see a hotfix for some of the major issues in the coming days or weeks. However, Render Dragon is unlocking a lot of future features for Bedrock Edition, so it is worth it. There's just going to be a little while where it's less than desirable performance. Another big issue in this update is that hostile mobs and the undead do not attack or even try to pathfind towards turtle eggs. As you can see, I got a whole variety of undead mobs in here. None of these guys are at all interested in these turtle eggs. Typically, they would run up here and they would stomp on them to try and break them, which is a pretty important game mechanic for gold farms and the like. Well, as you can see, now they do it, but they're kind of like very slow. They had to learn from me to do it. I led by example. I'm a terrible example. Jeez, okay. So they will notice them over time if you have like a million years to sit around and wait for that, but they should notice it immediately and go towards it immediately. They should treat it like the player, basically. So this breaks a lot of different things. It breaks Netherside gold farms like my design, and it also breaks things like drown farms who use these turtle eggs to lure the drowns and prevent them from pathfinding. I actually tested this in the recent beta when I was recording my drown farm, and I noticed that these guys were not interested in turtle eggs at all, but I thought I was just designing it wrong. Turns out I found a bug. So if you have any farms that use turtle eggs, you're going to see some extremely decreased rates if it's a major element of your farm until this bug is fixed. And this bug has been in Bedrock Edition several times before, so hopefully they have a quick fix for it lined up. This isn't really a bug, but you should know about this. So Game Mode 6 is currently in a Bedrock Edition, and this is actually Spectator mode. So this allows you to fly through blocks and stuff. Right now in Bedrock Edition, it is very basic, very preliminary, and you can see I'm actually drowning. So don't make any bug reports about this. Mojang is not currently supporting this feature, and it shouldn't really even be in the game, or at least we shouldn't know that it's in the game anyway. But yeah, Spectator mode is coming to Bedrock Edition. So this is what Spectator mode looks like in 1.18.30, and if you look at it in the 1.19 betas, it is actually so much better. Like, it is light years better than this one. So Mojang is actively developing Spectator mode, which is possibly the best news that we can ask for when it comes to this. So yeah, you can poke around and play with Spectator mode in your 1.18 worlds right now. All you need to do is run Game Mode 6. If you're flying in the air, that'll allow it to properly function. You can't be standing on the ground or anything. And even with how broken it is and with how little you can see, it is so nice to have. Having a basic Spectator mode is light years better than having no Spectator mode. There's another pretty major bug where if you and another player smack each other and you're both wearing Thorns 3, then that can crash the world. Oh, look at that. It actually did crash. Oh, I figured it out. I've been trying to reproduce this for a couple minutes now. Me and Silent 2 were both wearing full diamond armor with Thorns 3 on each piece of that armor, and I literally punched him once, and we both crashed Minecraft. So that's not great. Okay, let's try this again. So he's wearing a full Thorns 3 armor, but so am I. I'm in creative, he's in survival. I punch him, and nothing happens. If I'm in survival, as soon as I punch him, the game crashes. So don't punch anybody if they're wearing a full Thorns 3, because that'll crash your game. There's several more cursed items that you can get in this update. It's pretty small, but they are cursed nonetheless, so add them to your collection while you can. So first of all, if you get yourself a cornflower and you turn that into a piece of dye, that's going to be called lapis lazuli. So that's pretty silly. If you get yourself a wither rose and turn that into a black dye, that's going to be called an ink sac. So that's extra silly. If you get a bone meal, turn that into a white dye, dye, that's going to be called bone meal still because reasons. Lapis into blue dye is still called lapis, and ink sacs. Wait, no, these aren't ink sacs. That's black dye. I got those from the menu. Hold on. Okay, so all black dye right now is just named ink sac apparently. So if you search for black dye in the menu, there just isn't one. But if you search for ink, then of course the black dye shows up as an ink sac. Okay, well that's just extra broken. Anyway, what you do is you take an ink sac and then you turn that into a black dye, and then you got an ink sac. And, yeah, that's just kind of a weird one. So there's a couple different cursed items and a couple different ways that you can get them in this update. I think these are fixed in beta. I can't find it in the changelogs, but I'm fairly sure I saw something like this in the beta changelogs. So get them while you can. They're only going to be around for a short while. There's also a lot of reports of the game freezing quite frequently in 1.18.30, specifically on Switch and maybe even mobile devices as well. There doesn't appear to be a real solution to the problem right now. It just happens like once every 2 to 3 minutes if you are playing Minecraft or having the game open. The game's going to be freezing a lot, unfortunately. So watch out for this one. If it affects you, then you probably already noticed it. There's also been a lot of reports of servers corrupting and worlds corrupting as well in 1.18.30, as you can see from the various screenshots on screen now. So be careful. As always, I would recommend backing up your worlds, making off-site backups, putting them on a thumb drive somewhere. The worst thing that can happen to your Minecraft world is that you lose it unexpectedly, so make sure that you make backups. And even if your world does corrupt, still keep a copy of it around, because sometimes it'll uncorrupt in future updates. Mojang's been pretty good about fixing corrupted worlds in the past for things like this. So don't lose hope, don't delete the world, keep it around, and it might be fixed in a future update. But be careful out there, you never know when corruption can happen or when it's gonna strike, so just make a bunch of backups, like all of the time. Another major bug in this update is the fact that spiders can now spawn on buttons, which is breaking basically all of the creeper-only farms in the world. So if you have a creeper-only farm, it's gonna be a creeper plus spider farm, because these guys are spawning basically all over the place right now. So that's kind of unfortunate. Hopefully we get a bug fix for it soon, as there isn't really a good way to work around that, and I definitely would not recommend tearing down your entire farm. Why are these chunks not loading? Is this the corruption bug I was just telling you about? I'm not gonna look at that. So anyway, spiders spawn where they shouldn't. Evil, evil spiders. They're always terrible. A certain bug with furnaces is also back in the game as well, after being mentioned in the changelogs several times as fixed, and after being removed in the previous update, and yeah. Long live the furnace god, I guess. There's an interesting bug with barriers where if you have a certain layer of barriers, or if you get it in just the right way, then there will be a massive rendering glitch behind it. So right now, we only have a single layer of barriers right here, and we can see the ground perfectly fine, of course. And now we have 2 layers of barriers, and as you can see, we're going to start to see a little bit of weird rendering behind it, which is very strange. I've seen this in a multitude of different worlds, not only with barrier floors, but with barrier ceilings and barrier walls. There's a lot of different ways where you can get this bug to happen. It's very weird, and it would be great if this was fixed, because it does actually affect map makers in a variety of different ways. And if you have 3 layers of barriers, then it's a lot easier to have this bug happen, as you can see here. It's a lot more prominent. The less barriers you have, maybe the rarer it is, but the more you put on top, or the more you spread these out, the more likely you are to see this bug. This was actually around in the previous update, but it's also in 1.18.30 as well. If you liked today's video, drop a like, as it helps out the video and the channel a ton. If you're new here, then maybe consider subscribing to help us reach 500,000. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you down in the comments and in the next one. And then there was silence.